The Michigan Republican Party is calling for an audit of the Wayne County votes. This is Detroit, and this is a strong indicator they are not going to certify the results of Michigan. You see, the state board is comprised of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And if the Republican Party of Michigan is saying we want an audit, they're not likely to get one. And then in return, they're not likely to certify the votes. Now, I could be wrong, completely wrong about this. I'm going to show you what they're saying. But we also have Senate candidate John James is also saying we should not certify the election. It should be delayed. But let's first read what's going on with the GOP. They say, GOP demands audit of Wayne County election results. On Tuesday evening, the Wayne County Board of Canvassers passed a resolution calling for Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson to audit the election results in Wayne County. And the Michigan Republican Party demands that she follow through. When it became clear that 70% of the Detroit absentee counting boards were out of balance, the Wayne County Board of Canvassers agreed unanimously to request an audit of the Wayne County election results. This comes after Secretary of State's office pledged to help fix issues faced by Wayne County in the August 2020 primary, where 72% of the Detroit absentee counting boards were out of balance. They failed to do so. Can I just point out they probably stole this from Bernie? Nobody wanted Biden, okay? Because I'll tell you what, I'd have taken Bernie over Biden, and I'm not happy with Bernie. Quote, Jocelyn Benson has shirked her responsibility as Secretary of State for far too long, and we are demanding she follow through on an audit of the Wayne County election results, said Michigan Republican Party Chair Laura Cox. Cox continued, we are putting Benson on notice. The Michigan Republican Party will exhaust every legal option to ensure that we uncover the truth of what happened on election night and the days that followed. We will be holding her feet to the fire so that she will do her job and audit this vote. To clarify, 72% of the Detroit absentee counting boards were out of balance, meaning something doesn't make sense. And the response from the Democratic Party in Michigan has been, this happens in every jurisdiction. So you're telling us you have widespread voter irregularities? Like I'm saying, if that's the case, then it sounds like they stole it from Bernie too. Now, I don't know. I've got no evidence to suggest it was stolen, but I can tell you this. Widespread voter irregularities, probably in the primary, when Bernie Sanders probably should have won. I got to say, where you at, Bernie? You should be calling for an audit. You should have been calling for an audit, but they didn't. You know why? Because when it was the Democratic primaries, too many people just trusted the party. Now that we have tribal politics, the Republicans are saying, F you, we are not just going to trust you. We want an audit. We need an audit. We do. I'm sorry. That's just a fact. Right now, if you're telling me that 70% of these accounting boards are out of balance, meaning there are a different number of signatures than there are to the amount of actual voters, audit. I refuse to see the United States presidential election falter because one county doesn't know how to do their job properly. Now, as many of you probably know, the initial Wayne County Canvassing Board refused to certify Detroit. Ultimately, they agreed to if there was going to be an audit. Jocelyn Benson then said, there's no binding agreement for an audit. Too bad. So they said, we rescind our certification. They said, you can't do it. It's too late. I'm not sure it works that way. You know, a lot of people seem to think that a contract is absolute. It's not. Okay. Having done business, let me first say, don't sign something you didn't read. But also, there are contracts where you could, like, let's say you have a contract and in it says you give away your, the rights to everything you produce, blah, blah, blah. If the intent of the contract is to license out a portion of your content that you make, but it includes this provision somewhere that says you give up all of your rights, you can easily argue out of that in court. Seriously. A lot of people seem to think that, oh, I don't know, it's in paper and you signed it. No, you argue and say this is not the intent of the contract. It was a mistake. And they might say, okay, because you can trick people with contracts. Anyway, long story short, there is a legal process by which to not certify these votes. Just because they signed a paper doesn't mean it's done. That's not how the law works. People seem to think that the law is so rigid it doesn't move. It's like it's literally just people. Have you ever watched arguments? Have you ever actually looked at a court case? It's like the lawyer's like, Your Honor, here's what I think. Your Honor, here's what I think. And the judge says, okay, here's what I think. And that's really it. So if these people want to rescind their votes, I don't see why a court couldn't agree and say there were terms not met or enforce an audit. But I'll tell you, this is working out better for Trump. Trump doesn't want them to block certification at the Wayne County level. He wants them to block certification at the state level, which is what might actually happen. So it seems like what happened in Wayne County is completely irrelevant. In fact, I actually think it's all going perfectly for Donald Trump. Now, to be fair, again, there's a whole lot of, but wait, here's how Hillary could still win. Maybe it's just on the outs for Trump, but so long as this stuff's going on, I'm going to cover it and tell you the possibilities, not the probabilities, because I'll tell you this, the probabilities probably very low. But as these things keep moving along, it seems like there's a little increase here and there. Check it out. If the Wayne County Canvass Board refused to certify, all that happens is it goes to the state board, which it's already going to do. And then they would have to look over everything and determine if they're going to certify. The state board would have no reason. They would just say, okay, I guess we certify. But now they have a reason. The Republicans, at least. You see, when Wayne County said we're not sure about this, the two Republicans, and then they jammed through the certification anyway, and then said we're not going to do your audit, it's not binding. Now the state level Republicans, whoa, what's going on here? We can't certify this. Look at this weird stuff that's going on. Michigan does not then produce the electoral votes. I believe it's 16, right? Joe Biden drops down to 290, and then Trump need only shave off another 21 electoral votes to get a contingent election victory. Now, of course, the mainstream, the establishment, they're all saying it's over, Joe Biden won. These people don't get it. There's an ad from the Lincoln Project right now, and they're like, in 2016, Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,320 votes or something like that. And then they were like, the Michigan Board of Electors made the right decision and voted for Donald Trump. And then they say in 2020, Joe Biden won by 153,000 votes. And then they're like, Donald Trump is now trying to subvert the election or whatever. And I'm like, the election isn't called by the media. Donald Trump has a right to file challenges, and the Constitution states that's how the process works. For the media to come out and just say that Joe Biden won is incorrect. So here's what I think might happen. Monday is when they're supposed to certify this. I think they've been given great reason not to do so. The Republican GOP, the Michigan GOP, the Michigan Republican Party wants an audit. So why would two of their party members, it's 2-2, Republican Democrats, certify the election? Why? They want an audit. They're going to demand one. They're not going to fall for the same trick twice. No, we'll give you one. Yeah, right. Sorry, not going to happen. They're not going to meet that deadline, or they'll get their audit, and then the audit will show that Joe Biden won, whatever. Apparently, Georgia might go to an audit now as well, although it's kind of too late because certification has already happened. But now that there is certification is when Donald Trump can file to contest the results. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. This is what, some of the rumors that are flying around. The idea being that now that there's a certified results, Trump can challenge the results. Maybe that doesn't make sense at all. They keep saying Trump's challenging the results now, but there's not been certification. John James, Michigan should delay election certification. A panel composed of 2 Republicans and two Democrats is set to meet Monday to certify the state's election results. And this, my friends, is what might actually result in Donald Trump getting Michigan, or Michigan just going to no one. Let me show you something. Let me show you John James. John James lost by about 1.7%, just around 100,000 or so votes, a little bit less than 100,000. He was running, and now he's saying we shouldn't certify. You know what it means if they do an audit? It means it could flip to John James and then lock Republican Senate control. Do you think the Republican Party is going to just walk away? Now, I'll tell you, I don't trust most of these people. Lindsey Graham fist bumping Kamala Harris while claiming Donald Trump should be fighting. Nah, sorry, I don't buy it. But it does seem that the establishment, the Republican establishment and the Democrat establishment, which is basically the uniparty, as we call it, well, they're falling apart. And many Republicans have retired, bowed out, and now we're seeing a rise of people who actually care. Real populists, real conservative, real individuals who want to see this challenged. John James wants to win, and he can. If Wayne County isn't certified, I'm pretty sure John James wins. Over in Detroit, John James lost by over 300,000 votes. And in Washtenaw County, he lost by just about 100,000 votes. If the Detroit area, which is Wayne County, if they don't certify, John James wins. So I think it's in his best interest, too. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm just saying expect the GOP for a variety of reasons to say F your results. Look, they say the race isn't close. It is if one county can flip this. There's a bunch of different ways to talk about it, but I'll tell you, 70% of the canvassing board unbalanced, I have a problem with that. And when they come out and they say, but that's normal, I'm like, wow, are you telling me that there's long-standing, widespread voter irregularities? What's the point of tabulating the books if you just leave them unbalanced? That's creepy stuff right there. From Fox News, they say, Michigan's Board of State Canvassers should delay Monday's planned certification of the November 3 election results, a prominent state Republican said Friday. Clock's a ticking. That's still like a little bit less. It's a week and a half, all right? That's a long time to get stuff done. We'll see. John James, the GOP candidate who competed in the state's U.S. Senate race earlier this month, but has not yet conceded to Democratic incumbent Senator Gary Peters, made the request to the 4-member canvass board, according to the Detroit Free Press. Quote, I submit this request because I am interested in the truth and protecting the integrity of our elections, James wrote to the board, according to the newspaper. Sometimes the truth takes time to surface, and it's rarely easy to get. The panel, composed of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, is set to meet Monday to certify the state's presidential election results, which showed Democrat Joe Biden defeating Trump by about 155,000 votes. In a letter to the board, James calls for a 2-week delay, which should conveniently break certification deadlines. No, but at the federal level, it's December 8th. So there's still a lot of time. A 2-week delay to fully audit the election results, the Free Press reported. Unofficial results show James trailing Peters in the Senate race by about 92,000 votes, the newspaper reported. Norm Schinkel, a Republican member of the Canvassers Board, has said he is leaning toward a delay request. There you go. It's coming. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson audits of the voting are planned for after certification takes place, because certification is required to grant officials access to the documents. Benson, a Democrat, claimed no credible fraud allegations have been presented in the state to justify the canvasser board delaying certification. These people are lying. It would be like the analogy. This is the analogy I use. You've heard me say it several times. The Democrats are hearing smoke alarms going off and saying, but there's no fire. No one sees any fire. If you see fire, then we'll go to put out. It's like the smoke alarm is going off. What's the point of having books if you don't care when they're unbalanced? Well, there's no real accusations of fraud. No, but there's the smoke alarm going off. It would be like if you came out and said, this guy set a fire in that building. And if nothing was going on, you'd be like, I don't notice anything. But then the smoke alarm goes off. And then you're like, not only is the accusation there, the smoke alarm's going off. Let's go check it out. They say on Thursday, the Trump 2020 campaign withdrew a lawsuit challenging election results in Wayne County, Michigan, which includes Detroit, claiming the goal of preventing the county's results from being certified prematurely had been achieved. The county's board certified its election results Tuesday. On Friday, 2 Republican leaders in Michigan, State Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey and State Speaker of the House Lee Chatfield, met with President Trump at the White House and said they had not seen any evidence that would change the outcome of the election in Michigan, but would continue a thorough review of the elections process. You know, this may be, as I've stated, a lot of wishful thinking. Trump can still win. I don't know. Maybe he can't. Look, okay, no. Let me clarify that. Maybe he won't. I got to be careful I say this, because he literally can. I mean, stranger things have happened. Trump could theoretically take a tank and, crash into the White House and be like, I'm the president. And then for some reason, people agree with him. So there's definitely he can win. But there is a legitimate path to victory. Legitimate. The states may say we didn't certify because of irregularities in Wayne County, and there's a dispute between the Republicans and the Democrats, and the job can't get done. I don't know. I don't know if that's likely. I don't think it is. Trump is likely won't win, in my opinion, but I'm not entirely convinced, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if you saw my earlier segment about the Supreme Court assignments. Amy Coney Barrett now overseeing Wisconsin, and Brett Kavanaugh now overseeing Pennsylvania. Clarence Thomas now overseeing Georgia. Samuel Alito overseeing Pennsylvania. That's good news for Trump, I guess. So these are the circuits in the Supreme Court. It could just be nothing because, look, we have nine Supreme Court justices and they got to assign them. But it is convenient for Trump that his appointees, who probably have a bone to pick, Brett, not to impugn their honor and imply they can't judge impartially. But I seem to recall Kamala Harris berating Brett Kavanaugh with the stupidest of bunk accusations. I seem to remember watching a video, because I wasn't really young enough to remember this, of Clarence Thomas being berated by Joe Biden. And now the meme is Clarence Thomas with glowing eyes saying, I've waited 30 years for this moment. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to hold a grudge for that long. But Donald Trump says there is something coming out of Georgia. Trump claims that there is big voter fraud information coming out concerning Georgia as he continues to claim he won the election. Okay, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But Clarence Thomas now oversees the circuit. I believe it's the 11th, which covers Georgia. We will see how that plays out. They say President Donald Trump continued to allege voter fraud on Saturday. He claimed there is big voter fraud information coming from Georgia. Trump urged his supporters to stay tuned, yet offered no further information on what his campaign claims to have found there. Biden was declared the winner in Georgia after a hand recount this week. Trump's previous claims of fraud have been widely dismissed as his legal team has failed to supply any proof. Yet on Saturday, the president continued to claim he won the election. He also made more unfounded claims of voter fraud in Michigan. We have irregularity. We have absolute irregularity. That's a fact. And it is widespread. There's now been way too much evidence to come out showing that there's irregularities to dismiss. Irregularity is not fraud. It might be fraud, but we're not at that point yet, which is why we need an investigation and a hard hand audit. If there are, as people in Georgia have alleged, ballots that seem to be pristine with machine printing over the Joe Biden, oval or whatever, maybe we should actually check to make sure that's the case. If it is, sounds like evidence of fraud. And if these things disappear, then Trump would win, right? Or more reasonably, I think it's very likely it's just going to confirm what we already know. Now, the problem we're seeing with Georgia is that they didn't do whatever. They didn't do a full hard audit. They did a recount. And Trump and the Republicans are complaining that recounting bunk ballots will give you the same numbers. And they also found historic margin of votes that weren't counted properly. They were just not counted at all. What we need is signature verification. But let me tell you, Sidney Powell has not produced any evidence. Not that she necessarily has to, but ignore her. But if you're going to make extraordinary claims, then you need extraordinary evidence. And if you don't put that out, my concern is, are they just buying time for an electoral college certification victory? If Donald Trump is going to allege fraud across the board, we need evidence of ill intent. Giuliani has said he believes it might come from a centralized plan, some kind of centralized planning. That's a bold statement, brother. That's a bold statement. I have no problem saying we've seen now evidence of widespread irregularity, but to imply that there's widespread fraud requires a step up. We need an investigation, and this is a challenge. It really is. There's a deadline. One of the challenges with the election that makes it unfortunately easy to cheat is that you have only a couple of weeks to certify the results. But it takes a lot longer than that to investigate if there was a crime committed. So what are we supposed to do? There's accusations, there's alarm bells ringing, and we're supposed to just say, we're going to ignore this and we'll deal with it later. What would happen? Think about the crisis we would be in. If with all of these bits of, this evidence of irregularity, like the Matt Braynard numbers showing Republican ballots weren't returned in high numbers, that's widespread irregularity. The sworn statements. What would happen if we say, we'll just certify Joe Biden and we're fine? And then come January, they're like, oh, it turns out he didn't actually win. It was fraud. That would be devastating. The smartest thing we can do as a country is a hard audit verification. We have several weeks to do this. We counted these ballots in a day, and then the mail-in ballots took us a couple days. I think we can get the job done in a couple weeks. They just recounted Georgia, but do a signature verification audit. Then we can be done with this. That's why they're calling for a delay in Michigan, and I think it's a fair point. My concern, however, is this. Donald Trump has no legitimate path to victory in the sense that this is a concern. I'm not saying it's true because I don't know. I'm not going to assert anybody is playing nefariously until we can prove it. That's the Democrats or the Republicans. But I have two concerns. Perhaps there is widespread fraud. These irregularities and these anomalies are freaky. Or perhaps Donald Trump and his legal team and his allies know that they're never going to be able to uncover this in a longer investigation. But by jamming it up, they can freeze certification and cast enough doubt that the GOP, for instance, says, no, we're not certifying. If that's the case, actually, that doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if it's true. I don't know who's going to win the legal battle in the long run, but Trump has the Supreme Court likely on his side. Frank Luntz tweeted in response to somebody who said, we should certify the win for Trump. He said, you can't certify something that didn't happen. And my response, we are well past the point of anyone caring what's true. This is tribal politics at this point. My side versus your side, and I don't care. The bigger question is counting heads. That's where we are, baby. Donald Trump, can he count on the Supreme Court to take his side? He'll become president. Can the Democrats count on various institutional establishments to take their side? Well, they got the media. Where do you think this goes if Donald Trump is not going to stop? Counting heads. Who's on whose side? If Trump didn't have the Supreme Court, he probably would have walked away a long time ago. And that's what's worrying to me. Where this ultimately ends up could be two presidents claiming that they're in charge. Well, the news right now is that Twitter says they're going to give Joe Biden the POTUS handle no matter what happens. On the 20th, he's getting the Twitter accounts. Okay, but I think you mean if he's inaugurated. What happens if Joe Biden just becomes some kind of rogue president? Or Donald Trump does? Donald Trump's the one in the White House. There's even calls among conservatives who have mentioned calling in the Insurrection Act to these it's getting freaky. This next week is going to be critical. I hope you've all taken care to just prepare yourselves for what might come. Maybe nothing, maybe something serious. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at a different YouTube channel. To clarify, go to your address bar and type in youtube.com/Timcast, and you'll be surprised to find it's actually not this channel, even though this one says Timcast, because YouTube, for some reason, did that, and don't ask me why. But I have two channels. The channel you're on right now is youtube.com/Timcast News. And there's another channel where at 4 p.m. I'll be putting up another video. And that is youtube.com/Timcast. Just type that into the address bar and you will see, and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.